You mentioned about President Biden's efforts. And looking at the last few weeks and even since January when he assumed office, and comparing this with the earlier Trump administration, are you satisfied in the way in which the Biden administration has approached the first major crisis in the Middle East?
Of course not. I think the Biden administration was caught by surprise. The Biden administration does not have a plan for the Middle East. In fact, it is continuing, or it seems that it is continuing the previous Obama administration's the pivot to Asia, so to speak, that people are tired of the Middle East, of the Arab-Israeli conflict, of the Gulf in general. They want to stay away from it. But unfortunately, as every American new president discovers, whether you like it or not, you cannot divorce yourself from this part of the world because the entire global energy situation is wrapped up in these conflicts. The Biden administration was caught by total surprise. They have no plans as of right now. And let's not forget that it took several days for Biden to actually come out and win a ceasefire commitment from both the Israeli and the Hamas people. Presumably there are some kind of back channel discussions going on. But now the Biden administration has come out and said openly that they want to work with the PA, which is fresh and which is new. And another thing which is important, in his declaration, Biden had expressed his condolences to Israelis and Palestinians who were killed. This is new. Usually, American officials do not express condolences to Palestinians or Arabs or Muslims. That's something that we have not seen before. So therefore, not only Israeli lives are worth having condolences about, but also Palestinian, Arab, and Muslim lives are worth it. So this is new, and the Biden administration, which was caught, as I said, by surprise, will have to make a decision how it wants to move, whether it wants to invest more. I read just a few hours ago that the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, is going to come to the region very soon, and he will find the place a total mess. And I'm not sure whether Antony Blinken and his team have gotten all of their priorities straightened out yet, but presumably it will be a teaching moment. He will see with his own eyes what's going on. Let's hope for the best.
Thank you, Professor. I have one more question.
Please.
We know that, there has been some statements from China and Russia, but we know that when it comes to influence any country, any global power which can influence developments in the Middle East, and specifically the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, it is the United States. So, and you were also mentioning about how the Biden administration was taken by surprise. What would be your suggestion to the current US administration in the wake of this episode in terms of how they should approach this Israel-Hamas, problem and move towards peace process rather than moving towards, another episode of violence?
Well, if somebody were to ask me in Washington about my views, this is, I think what the Israelis need is tough love. And I think it's time for the United States to actually remind the Israelis that they're not weak. They're very powerful. Israel is a nuclear power. It is not Somalia. It's a very, very strong country in the world. It can really stand up to all of its enemies. And it has to make a decision whether it wants to have peace in the Middle East. But peace must have justice associated with it. You cannot have both. And you cannot have one without the other. And the United States has got to really move along this path, not just to take always Israel's side. Israel is a reality. Everybody acknowledges it. There are now 6 Arab countries that have established diplomatic relations. More will follow, but you cannot bulldoze over the Palestinians. Gaza is a prison, 1.5 million surviving on a daily basis. They're not even living, they're surviving. The Americans have an obligation. Of course, the Russians the Chinese, the British, the French, everybody else has an obligation too, but their priorities are very different. And so far, the United States has proven itself to be really an excellent friend of Israel. No question about that. The time has come for the Biden administration to be a good friend of the Palestinians as well. They too deserve to live.